January 24th, 1989. Just before dawn, a crowd gathers outside Florida State Prison, waving signs, dancing, cheering. The air is electric, but not from the cables humming through the power lines. Inside, one of the most infamous serial killers in American history is strapped to the electric chair. At 7:06 a.m., the switch is flipped. A man once called charming, brilliant, and normal is declared dead. His name is Ted Bundy. But this isn't just the story of how he died. It's the story of how a clean-cut law student manipulated an entire nation and left behind a trail of fear, deception, and over 30 victims. What led to that chair? And how did so many miss the monster in plain sight? Let's rewind the clock. This is how it began. Before he became a name etched in infamy, before the headlines, the manhunts, the courtroom spectacles, Ted Bundy was just another face in the crowd. Born on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont, his very identity began with deception. His birth certificate listed no father. His mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, was unmarried, a stigma in conservative post-war America. To preserve appearances, young Ted was raised believing that his grandparents were his parents, and his mother merely his older sister. A family secret, quiet, concealed, and toxic. And maybe that was the beginning. By all accounts, Ted was polite, neat, reserved. He didn't stand out in the way troubled children usually do. But there were early signs. Neighbors recalled unsettling moments, a toddler caught with knives, a boy who watched others with a strange, quiet intensity. He would later claim his childhood was normal, but behind closed doors, his grandfather was reportedly violent and abusive. Ted's perception of love, family, and truth may have been warped from the start. Still, he grew up, and on the surface, he thrived. As a young man, Bundy was handsome, articulate, and driven. He studied psychology at the University of Washington, interned at a suicide prevention hotline, even dipped into politics, working on a Republican campaign. He shook hands with governors, dated well-educated women, smiled for cameras. To most, he was going somewhere. But Bundy wasn't who he seemed. Beneath the well-pressed shirts and charming grin, something darker was forming. Rejection from a woman, refined, wealthy, everything he wasn't, triggered something inside him. When she ended the relationship, Bundy was humiliated. He withdrew, obsessed, changed. In the months that followed, friends noticed something had shifted. He became cold, withdrawn, his easy smile less frequent. But no one thought much of it. After all, Ted was normal, right? What no one saw, not his friends, his professors, or even his girlfriends, was that Ted had begun crafting a mask. Behind it, rage simmered. Fantasies of dominance, control, violence. His charm, once a social tool, became a weapon. His intelligence, once praised, became camouflage. And in 1974, young women across Washington state started to disappear. They were smart, pretty, brown-haired, often with a middle part, eerily similar to the woman who had rejected him. They vanished without a trace. No witnesses, no struggle, no goodbye. At first, no one connected the dots. Why would they? The man they were looking for wasn't a drifter or a monster hiding in the shadows. He was holding a briefcase. He was wearing a cast and asking for help. The mask was working, and no one saw what was coming next. It began quietly. January 4th, 1974. Seattle, Washington. Linda Ann Healy, 21 years old, beautiful, responsible, well-liked, a senior at the University of Washington. That morning, her alarm kept ringing. Her roommate knocked, then entered. Linda was gone. Her bed was made, except for a strange red stain on the pillow. Her bicycle was still in the basement. Her clothes from the night before neatly folded. But Linda had vanished. No sign of a struggle, no forced entry, no goodbye. In the coming weeks, more young women would vanish. Donna Manson, Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks. All were students, all brunette, all attractive, all vanished from public places in broad daylight. At first, no one connected the dots. Police departments didn't share information across state lines. To the public, these were isolated incidents. But behind the scenes, something sinister was unfolding. There was no pattern, at least not one police could track. The victims didn't know each other. They were taken from different cities on different days, often without a witness. What little clues investigators had were vague. A man seen walking with a limp, a guy in a cast struggling to carry books or loading something into a tan Volkswagen Beetle. They had no name, no license plate, just a phantom. Some women would later recall brief encounters, a friendly man asking for help near a library or at the lakeshore. He said his name was Ted. By July of that same year, fear had settled over the Northwest. Women began walking in groups. Parents sent their daughters pepper spray and knives. But Ted was always one step ahead. He changed locations, methods, tactics. Sometimes he wore a sling, other times a fake leg brace. He'd drop keys, struggle with a briefcase, or ask a young woman to help him lift a sailboat off the roof of his car. And when they leaned in to help, he struck. He hit them with a crowbar, dragged them to his car, drove them to remote woods. What happened next was something only he, and perhaps the dead, would ever truly know. That summer, 2 women disappeared. In one day. July 14th, 1974. Lake Sammamish State Park. Janice Ott, then Denise Nussland. Witnesses recalled a man in a white tennis outfit, arm in a sling, struggling with a sailboat. He asked both women for help, and neither of them came back. This time, the witnesses remembered more. The name he gave them was clear. "Hi, I'm Ted." For the first time, police had a name and a rough sketch. Hundreds of tips poured in. One woman, disturbed by how much the sketch resembled her ex-boyfriend, even called the police. His name? Ted Bundy. But he was clean-cut, a law student, worked in politics, had no record. Surely it couldn't be him. Police brushed it off. There were thousands of Teds, and Bundy didn't fit the profile. And so he kept going. From Washington to Utah, then to Colorado. More women, more disappearances, no arrests, no bodies, no answers. Just shadows, bloodstains, and silence. And behind it all, a man who still smiled, still blended in, still shook hands in public. They called him charming. They should have called him Death. By late 1974, the trail of missing women stretched across multiple states: Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Colorado. The name Ted had become a whisper of fear. The tan Volkswagen Beetle, a detail too vague. And still, no arrests. Until one woman got away. On the night of November 8, 1974, in Murray, Utah, 18-year-old Carol Duranch was approached by a man claiming to be a police officer. He said someone had tried to break into her car. He was calm, respectful, showed a badge. He offered to drive her to the station. Carol got into his car, but something felt wrong. The police station wasn't the police station. The direction didn't make sense. Then, the stranger pulled over. When she questioned him, he snapped. He handcuffed her, but only one wrist. She fought, screamed, kicked. Somehow, she escaped, ran for her life. A passing driver took her to safety. She had just slipped from the jaws of a killer, and now police had a description. 2 months later, a Utah highway patrolman spotted a suspicious tan Volkswagen Beetle. Inside, a ski mask, rope, a crowbar, handcuffs. The driver was Ted Bundy. He was clean-cut, a law student, friendly. But Carol Duranch saw his face, and she remembered. She picked him out of a lineup without hesitation.
Bundy was arrested and charged with attempted kidnapping. He maintained his innocence, but this was only the beginning. Bundy stood trial in 1976. He was convicted, sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison, but what the courts didn't yet know was that this wasn't a one-time predator. This was a serial killer in disguise, and he wasn't done playing games. While awaiting a second trial for murder in Colorado, Bundy chose to represent himself. That decision gave him access to law libraries, to movement, to planning. On June 7, 1977, during a break in court, Bundy asked to research in the library, alone. The guard agreed. Bundy jumped out a second-story window and ran. He was free for 6 days before being captured again. But he wasn't finished. This time, he wouldn't just run, he would vanish. December 30th, 1977, Bundy starved himself until he lost over 30 pounds. Then, in the middle of the night, he squeezed through a hole in the ceiling of his jail cell, into a closet, then into the jailer's apartment, and out the front door. No one noticed for 15 hours. By then, he was gone. He fled across the country, changed his appearance, used fake IDs. And while authorities scrambled to track a ghost, the monster was reborn, hundreds of miles away. The next time Bundy surfaced, the world would witness the full fury of what he'd become. He no longer needed a mask, no more charm, no more games. In Florida, Ted Bundy unleashed hell. When Ted Bundy escaped from jail for the second time, he didn't just disappear, he mutated. This wasn't the calculating killer of Washington. This wasn't the manipulator with fake casts and charming smiles. What surfaced in Florida was something else entirely. A man unmasked, unhinged, uncontrolled. January 1978, Bundy had traveled 2,000 miles from Colorado to Tallahassee, Florida. Under the alias of Chris Hagen, he rented a room in a boarding house near Florida State University. He had no money, no plan, just hunger. And just 10 days later, he struck. In the early morning hours of January 15, 1978, around 3 a.m., most of the campus was asleep. The streets were silent, dormitories dark. But inside the Chi Omega house, a nightmare was beginning. Bundy broke in through a rear door. In less than 15 minutes, he brutally attacked 4 young women. Margaret Bowman, Lisa Levy, Karen Chandler, Kathy Kleiner. 2 were murdered in their sleep. 1 was strangled with a nylon stocking. Another beaten so badly with a log, her skull was fractured. 2 others survived, but with shattered jaws, broken teeth, and deep trauma. He left behind bite marks, evidence, but not remorse. Less than an hour later, Bundy broke into another home just a few blocks away. This time, he attacked Cheryl Thomas, a student and aspiring dancer. She survived, but with permanent hearing damage and facial injuries. The violence was no longer hidden or methodical. It was manic, loud, messy. This was not the Bundy the FBI had profiled. This was chaos. And he wasn't finished. In early February, just 3 weeks after the Chi Omega attack, Bundy abducted his youngest known victim. 12-year-old Kimberly Leach disappeared from her junior high school in Lake City, Florida. Witnesses said she was seen walking with a strange man. Then, she was gone. Her body wouldn't be discovered until 2 months later, hidden in a pig shed near Suwannee River State Park. This time, the world was watching. Bundy's trail of blood had stretched across the country, and now, even children were no longer safe. But finally, the monster slipped. On February 15, 1978, almost exactly a month after the Chi Omega killings, Bundy was pulled over by a Pensacola police officer. He gave a false name. But inside the stolen car were IDs, stolen credit cards, and the same bite pattern police found on Lisa Levy's body. Bundy had been caught. Again. But this time, it was different. This time, he wouldn't be slipping through the cracks. The evidence was overwhelming. The crimes were unspeakable, and the public wanted blood. What followed would be one of the most sensational murder trials in American history. The man who had once outsmarted the law was now caged, but not silenced. In 1979, America turned on their televisions and watched a killer put on his greatest performance yet. Ted Bundy was tried for the Chi Omega sorority murders, but this wasn't just a trial. It was a circus. It was the first televised murder trial in American history. Millions tuned in. Women sent him fan mail. Some came to court hoping to catch his eye. Bundy smiled for the cameras. He acted as his own attorney. Calm, confident, charming. But behind the smirk was a man unraveling. The evidence was damning. Bundy's bite marks matched the wounds on Lisa Levy. His stolen IDs and credit cards linked him to the scene. There were witnesses, survivors, fingerprints. But the most chilling part was how he treated it all like a game. In a bizarre twist during the penalty phase, Bundy proposed marriage to Carol Ann Boone, a former co-worker, in the middle of the courtroom. She said yes. They would have a child together while he sat on death row. July 24, 1979, Bundy was found guilty of 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and burglary. The judge handed down the sentence: death. Take care of yourself, young man. I say that to you sincerely. It's a tragedy for this court to see such a total waste. You'd have made a good lawyer. I'd love to have had you practice in front of me, but you went another way, partner. But Bundy wouldn't die quickly. He bought time with confession, delay, manipulation. Over the next 9 years, Bundy played his final hand, granting interviews, offering insights to the FBI, even giving chilling commentary on his own crimes in the third person. But time ran out. On January 24, 1989, as dawn broke over Florida State Prison, protesters outside chanted, "Burn, Bundy, burn." The man who once believed he was too clever to be caught was now walking the last mile. At 7:16 a.m., Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair. The flames of justice had finally closed around the darkness. But even in death, Bundy left behind scars. Not just in the hearts of families he destroyed, not just in the minds of investigators he toyed with, but in a nation forced to confront a terrifying truth. evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a smile. And sometimes it sits in the courtroom, calls you your honor, and offers you its hand. Ted Bundy is gone.